These kill deals. 13 high-ticket red flags. So in this video, I'm going to reveal to you the 13 red flags that prospects can show that will kill deals, that you absolutely need to know if you want to earn a living in sales, if you want to be fucking rich. Some of these red flags you can overcome. Others mean you should probably get off the call. But by the end of this video, you'll know each one and how to handle them. When you understand these red flags and how to handle them, you'll be able to make more money, make selling easier, have more fun selling, become a better version of yourself, and understand exactly what you need to work on as a salesperson. But I have to be direct. If you can't sit and listen to one entire video and all of this knowledge that I'm going to give you for free, then I'm afraid you're not going to make it. If you don't know who I am, I'm Josh Lyons. And as a high ticket closer, I earned over $100,000 a month in commission, selling $1.12 million a month in cash collected. I then trained the sales team at Alex Hormozi's old gym launch, which was sold for $46 million. I've helped multiple business owners scale their sales teams to $1 million a month in cash collected and beyond. Now I run the Unicorn Closer Mastermind, which is a private members only club for the top 0.0001% of salespeople who want to make more money and become the best version of themselves simultaneously. And all of the huge money I made as a salesperson in commission and money I made for business owners came because I understood people. More specifically, the 13 high-ticket red flags that prospects can show that kill deals. Most closers kind of putter along at a mediocre at best version of their potential income. But when you shift your attention from memorizing word tracks and scripts and what to say to learning what to listen for in things that will kill the deal, you can absolutely have a license to print money for as long as you possibly can. So the first thing for us to talk about is to set the scene. Most high-ticket closers, most salespeople have the complete wrong idea of what sales actually is. What do you actually need to do on a sales call to be successful? What do you need to do to close at the highest close rate percentage that you possibly can? What you need to realize is that your job on a sales call is not to sell the thing that you're selling. Your job isn't to go through your script and ask your questions. Your job isn't even to handle objections at the end of the call. What your job is really about is understanding the person that you're on the phone with and why they're not where they want to be. They're here and they want to be here. I'll tell you right now, they're not where they want to be because of external factors, victim mentality, the world, the culture, their language that they speak. None of that is why they're not where they want to be. Same as for you. Nothing external is why you're not where you want to be. The reason that the prospect is here, not here, where they want to be, is because they are showing up in some way, shape, or form in the wrong way. And the way that they're showing up in the wrong way is going to fit within one of these 13 red flags. When you find it, you don't brush it under the carpet, you address it directly. I'm going to teach you how to do that in this video. But before getting into what those 13 high-ticket red flags are, I wanted you to understand why this is so crucial in making more money. The amount of money that you're going to be able to make is understanding this big shift that your job isn't to just sell the product. Your job is to find the thing that the person is doing in the way they're showing up that they shouldn't be, or not showing up in a way that they should be, and having a real, no BS, raw and authentic conversation with the prospect about that thing. Those things are these 13 red flags. So now you know what you're really there to do on a sales call, which is going to allow you to make a lot of money. Let's crack into the 13 red flags. These red flags are not in an exact order because some of them can cross over. If you're selling at a very high level, like I teach the salespeople and closers inside my Unicorn Closer Mastermind alongside my mentor, you will not be selling with a script. You will be using a flexible selling style methodology, which is called scriptless selling. In other words, you're having a conversation based on what the prospect is telling you. And sometimes the conversation goes in weird directions. It doesn't always go linearly. So I've laid these out in a order that is most probably the order that they'll come up. But if you're selling at a very high level, some of these can be in different orders. Now, as you go through these, and as I take you through these 13, all of them, bar one, fit into kind of a category. So we've got 7 categories with 2 red flags in each, apart from one that just has 1, and that gives us our 13. So what are those categories? Let's set the scene even further. Now we know what your job is on a sales call. Let's compartmentalize where these red flags are going to come up in. The first red flag category is around the problem, or what we would call reality. This is the current situation. This is where we are right now. The second red flag category is around where they want to be, the desire, or we could call it the vision. The third red flag category is around what we would call frame. In other words, there's you on the sales call and there's the prospect. And how is that relationship looking right now? Do they look up to you? Do they look down at you with disdain? Do they think, oh, what a cheap salesperson, tacky salesperson, slimy salesperson? Or do they look up at you and think, this is a trusted expert, this is an advisor, this is someone that's a leader? The fourth red flag category is awareness, which kind of could be called their perspective. Like, what do they see when they look out at the world? Do they see red when I see blue? Do they see glass half full when I see glass half empty? How do they see things? The fifth category is character. In other words, the prospect's character. How are they showing up as a person? Like, if we were to assess them, what is going on? The sixth category is the vehicle. What are we actually going to do to try and bridge the gap from where you're at now to where you want to be? The seventh and final category is the journey. More specifically, commitment around making that journey. So let's crack into these red flags. So in the first category with the problem or reality, the first red flag is if there is a lack of clear pain or motivation. This is so obvious, but having done tens of thousands of sales call reviews for closers on sales teams, including Alex Hormozi's Gym Launch sales team, it blew my mind how many salespeople get 10, 15, even 20 minutes into the call, and I'm not exactly clear what the problem is that we're trying to solve. No problem, no sale. No problem, no reason for a sale. I want you to understand as a salesperson that 99% of the time, there is a clear pain and there is a clear motivation behind that pain being resolved. Most salespeople, though, they don't ask the right questions to get to the pain because they're too busy reading their script and just trying to go down the script. Even if you've asked the first question on your script, if you don't get the answer, you have to re-ask it in 5, 6, 7 different ways until you actually get what you needed from that part of the call. And I caveated this section with saying 99% of the time there is a clear pain and a motivation, because whilst this is a red flag, in other words, if there is no clear pain or motivation, you should just get off the call. You should say, hey, I'm really not seeing here that there's a clear problem that you're trying to solve or a solution that you're trying to get to. And anybody that we would consider bringing into this program, there is a burning problem that is crystal clear that they are committed to solving. And I'm just not hearing that from you right now. So I would say that we just don't have alignment. That would be how you get off the call. But the red flag is more, in this case, a red flag that the prospect isn't giving it to you, and you as the salesperson continue to move on with the sales call even though you haven't got a clear pain or a clear motivation. So the first red flag is if there is a very, 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 very small chance that the prospect doesn't have a clear pain or motivation, you get off the call. But remember, 99% of the time, it's you as the salesperson that hasn't been able to define that clear problem. That is actually something that we spend a lot of time training inside my Unicorn Closer Mastermind, because if you nail the first 3 to 5 minutes of a sales call, nailing down that problem, crystallizing it, clarifying it, specifying it, verbalizing it back to the prospect, they have now admitted, yes, that is my pain. Yes, that is my problem. Yes, that is what I want that I don't have right now. So we spend a lot of time on a live training call breaking down that first 5 minutes of tons of sales calls from the members inside so that we can nail this first red flag. Okay, what is the second one? The second one is frequent cancellations or showing up late. You might say, why is that? Because this first section, remember we had our different categories, is about the current situation. And the current situation to close a sale needs to be that there is a clear pain or a clear problem. But also, the prospect needs to be associated to that clear pain and problem. In other words, they can't be denying it. They can't be not facing reality. If they keep canceling, if they keep turning up late, they are not in a state where they're viewing their pain or problem as a pain or problem that is serious. And so a huge red flag, which I would address very early on if I'm ever to say take a sales call with someone that keeps rescheduling, keeps turning up late, I'd say, hey, I noticed that you had a number of last minute reschedules. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to waste your time, and I'm sure you don't want to waste mine. Is solving blank, whatever industry you're selling in, is that really a priority for you right now? And I would address the red flag straight away, because remember what I said at the start of this video, your actual job as a salesperson is to bring the prospect to the reality that how they're currently showing up is why they haven't solved the problem. It's not really because they need your offer or they need your solution or they need to buy anything. You're actually selling the person. You're fixing the personal problems that the prospect is showing up as, and then just rolling them into the program so they can continue to show up in this new way with training, with coaching, with a community, things like that. And so why do you need to reconcile this red flag straight away? Because that's one of the things that you're selling. You're selling the more real version of the prospect that they need to actually show up as. In other words, you wouldn't say this to the prospect, but what you're implying is you aren't taking this seriously because you've got a problem that you're denying, that you don't want to face. And so the way that you're managing it is to just keep putting off resolving it. You having the cojones, you actually being real and authentic and genuine enough as a salesperson to address that head on, you'd be surprised how many sales you will make from just having that no BS real moment when this red flag comes up. So that's the two red flags in the current problem, or what we would call reality. So let's move into the second one now, which is the desire category or the vision. So we've covered where they are, and we're now going to talk about where they want to go. So the first red flag is if where they want to go is focused on short-term thinking. Because in order for someone to take action, to get out of what we would call homeostasis, in other words, just momentum going in the same direction, to change that direction of that momentum or to put more momentum behind it, we have to have a strong desire. And if the desire is, oh, I'm making $3,000 a month as a salesperson and I want to get to $5,000, well, that short-term thinking isn't going to be enough for the momentum to change direction. This is based on laws of physics. You know, an object moving in a certain direction at a certain speed will continue moving in that direction at that same speed unless there's a big enough input for it to change. It's not just going to change on its own. The more that pushes, the easier it is for someone to take action now, and to maintain that commitment level, because the goal, the desire, the vision is serious enough. So if you're ever on a sales call and you ask the person what they want, let's say, you know, I used to sell dating services. If I was talking to a guy that's not been on a date for a year and I said, okay, I wouldn't ask it like this, but what is your goal? And he said, oh, I want to go on a date. A date. I wouldn't sell him the product or service to get a date. I wouldn't even sell him the product or service to go on a handful of dates. I'd be like, okay, got it. And so going on a date, why is that important? Or I might say, okay, and so going on a date, you know, we get you on a date. What then? Oh, well, I'd want to go on another one. Okay, makes sense. We get you out on multiple dates. what is the end goal that you're looking to accomplish? And either someone's going to now give you a bigger end goal. Well, actually, I'm looking for a marriage partner. Okay, cool. I can now sell that because they've gone from short-term thinking to long-term thinking. And going back to the introduction, setting the scene here, someone isn't going to solve a problem if their mindset is locked on this short-term thinking. If you're a salesperson and the only thing you're thinking about is, oh, I want to learn to handle some objections. I'm getting objections. I want to learn to handle them. Or you're at 5K a month and you're thinking, oh, I'd love to get to 10. You're not going to have the drive to hire a mentor, to go through training, to have your calls reviewed, to be a part of a high-level community and get called out and put in your place when you need to because you're not doing the work that you need to do, or you've got some sabotaging belief or sabotaging behavior. If all you want to do is fix handling some objections or go from 5K to 10K. It's why in the mastermind I run, we don't even allow people in who have what we call small boy goals. In other words, if you have a small boy goal, this is not the place for you and we wouldn't accept you in. For the simple reason that, remember, these red flags are not only how you sell the person, but it's how you get them to be successful. And when you align your selling style, your methodology with, if I can get people in a place where they're going to be successful, if I've done that for them, if I've taken them from a place where they're never going to make it to a place where they're going to make it, they're going to buy from me because I've already served them. I've already helped them. That is actually what you're selling the person. And so this, I was going to say small boy thinking, but this short-term thinking is a massive red flag that is going to guarantee the person doesn't have what they need in terms of internal, spiritual, emotional, even energetic resources to take action. But it's also going to mean they won't be successful because everything in life has trials and tribulations, ups and downs. And when the going gets tough and they're like, oh, I want to go from 3K a month to 5K a month, shit, things are difficult, they're going to bail. They're just not going to make it. So you have to handle this red flag. If you're ever talking to someone about their vision and they've got a short-term thinking goal, you have to take it further. And sometimes, and this is why I do not sell with a script, you just tell the person why. If they don't get it, hey Josh, why are you not happy with my goal to go from 3 to 5K? That's a great question. Let me explain it. Things are going to get hard at some point, even with our help. You're going to have some challenges. You're going to have a bad day. You're going to have personal things. You're going to maybe find something difficult to learn. And if your goal is just to go from 3 to 5K, which isn't going to massively transform your reality or your life, when that tough time comes, the probability that you quit or you delay putting in the work and just basically your results go down and even potentially to zero is very high. Whereas when someone has a big vision, a big dream, a big transformation they want to accomplish, that vision, that imagination of a better reality, it pulls them forward. It's like a planet with a gravity field. This isn't a script. Don't write this out. Don't say, oh, Josh's analogy, Josh's metaphor, he said planets and gravity. That's not the point. The point is you just tell them the truth if they need to, because high-level selling is about helping the person get to the position they need to be, understanding people, understanding why they're not where they want to be, and then having the skill of communication and how you show up, because people won't listen to you if you have the right words but the wrong energy, so that when you explain to them how to get them into position to be successful, that's what's actually going to allow them to buy from you and also to have results once they've already bought from you. Okay, the next one in vision or desire, unrealistic expectations. So the first one we covered is they've only just got a small short-term goal, very small jump. This one is the jump is massive. And it could be that the jump is just huge and they're thinking way too far ahead, or it's huge relative to their assumption of what they need to put in to get there. In other words, you've got a person on the phone, I'm sure you've had this, they're working in McDonald's and they come on the call, I want to be a millionaire. Okay. Because they're so far removed from the next step, the next 10 moves in their life, even the next 50 moves, they're not actually going to be able to see their feet, metaphorically, in front of them because they're like, oh, I'm just going to be a millionaire. That's my goal. I want to be a millionaire and I want to do it in 6 months. Now, if you want to become a millionaire in 6 months, more power to you. I would love that to happen for you. I'm not saying it can't be done, not saying it hasn't been done, not saying it shouldn't be done. But when you're on a sales call, you have to have the awareness to understand, is this person's disassociation to the reality of the next few steps and instead putting their reality on some, way ahead desire or vision, is that the thing that's holding them back? And I'll tell you now, it will be. And so what you want to do on the sales call, how to solve this, is take them from, okay, so you want to be a millionaire. Let's break that down. So you want to do that in 6 months. So 1 million divided by 6, let's just call it 200,000. Okay, so 200,000 a month. So that's $50,000 in the next 7 days, and to maintain that. Now, obviously, momentum could build in the second 3 months, so we could start a little bit slower and assume you're going to get momentum. So let's half that. Let's say the first 3 months, you need to get to $25,000 a week. Then the second 3 months, you need to be at $75,000 a week, because it kind of curves up like that. That's how progress works. What are you going to do exactly? What do you think you need exactly to get to $25,000 in the next 7 days? They may say, oh shit, now I've thought about it, that might not happen. You say, okay, well listen, definitely want to assist you getting to $1 million a month. And we have had people in the program that have done that. Sorry, $1 million, not $1 million a month. But do you think part of the problem in regards to why you're still working a 9 to 5 in McDonald's has been the fact that you haven't broken down your big vision and your big goal into tangible next action steps? They'll probably say, yeah, I think so. I guess that could make sense. Okay. And so where are you at now with taking this big reality and big vision and big dream that you want and starting to break it down into something that you can do, that you should do, that you do by the end of this week, as opposed to always being able to put it off by thinking about this massive desire, as opposed to just doing what you need to do today. It's a little bit wordy. Again, do not script these things out. This is not what I'm saying. This is not a video on, hey, Josh said, say this word track. It's the principle. The red flag in this one is they're thinking way too unrealistically. Or another example, they want to hit blank. They want to get to this reality, and they think they're going to put in an hour a day. You have to ask them, okay, so you want to put an hour a day to be a millionaire in the next 6 months. Where did you get that number from? Oh, I just, I thought it would make sense, or I thought it's what's possible. Understood. If that's what's possible for you, I'm definitely not saying we don't want you to hit $1 million from an hour's work a day over 6 months, but would this still be something that you would commit to and you would take action on if you put in an hour a day, if that's all you can put in, and 6 months from now, you'd made $100,000? If it's a 9 to 5er that's working at McDonald's, you'd hope that they'd say, oh yeah, okay, why? Right? So you break it down into something more manageable, because at a very high level of selling, you start to understand that even people's rationalizations, justifications, excuses, ignorance, and consciously or unconsciously not facing the reality of reality, they're actually conscious of it. But it's deep in their consciousness. What I mean by that is someone isn't going to buy from a salesperson that has allowed them as a prospect on a call to be sold with this red flag. In other words, oh, millionaire in 6 months, awesome. Yeah, let's do it. Good stuff. People are conscious that their own stupidities aren't realistic. And so one of the things that helps you sell is to face the reality that the prospect knows, and they know that you know, but most salespeople, which is why internal mastery is such an important thing, and it's 50% of what I trained Alex Hormozi's gym launch team, and it's actually the only thing that I trained them in the first 4 to 6 weeks, and it took them to their highest close rates just teaching them internal mastery, because a salesperson can know that the prospect's got some bullshit that they don't want to address. They can even know that the prospect knows that they know, yet they don't address it. They just, I don't want to talk about that, or I don't know how to handle that, or I don't want to provoke the prospect, or I don't want to have a conflict, or I don't want to break rapport, or I don't want to break their trust. It's like the most trustworthy thing that you can do as a salesperson is tell the truth to the prospect. And you'll notice that all of these red flags really come down to just telling the truth to the prospect preferably through questions. Okay. So 4, let's move on. So number 5 category is frame. In other words, how do they see you versus them? And this is really important because if the prospect sees themselves as superior to you and you as obviously inferior to them, why are they going to give you money? Why are they going to give you money if they think they are better than you? They can already figure it out. They don't need your help. And that is another cop-out. It's another rationalization. Their choice to frame up the conversation between you and them as, oh, I'm, the big I am and you're just a salesperson or a closer. That way of showing up is denial of the reality. And so instead of facing reality, in order to make themselves feel relieved from reality or alleviated from facing reality, they compensate with that by artificially putting themselves in their own mind in a higher frame. Oh, I don't need you, or I'm better than you, or, I'm prospects will often say, I'm the one deciding if I or we should work with you. You're not the one, salesperson, asking me questions. I'm the one asking you questions. So no, because you're not where you want to be. Don't say that. And so how does this actually show up as a red flag? Number 1, obsession with price early on in the call. Why are they obsessed with price? Because they don't actually want to make a decision. They want to, but they also don't want to. In other words, they do want to fix their problem, but they don't want to have to go through the reality of facing the reality of the problem to then start fixing it. So what do? They just talk about price, knowing in their own mind that it's stupid because they know it's another day, another week, another month, another year that they won't fix the problem. But right now they're in this turmoil, they're in this conflict of, well, I want to fix the problem, but I'm scared. It's a big change, taking action. I haven't taken action for a year or 5 years or 10 years. So you know what I'll do? And this is the devil and the angel on the shoulders of the psychology of the person. The devil is like, you know what you should do, Mikey? Just ask the price, knowing that when they tell you the price, you'll say, oh, that's too much money. I'm not going to do anything. And then you can just get off the call. And that's like this devil on their shoulder that's trying to give them another cop-out. You can't do that. Your job as a salesperson is to help people. Zig Ziglar had a quote which says, you can have whatever you want in life, as much money as you want in life, if you can help other people get what they want. So your job on the sales call is to help people get out of these red flag positions. And so this one is, they're trying to frame you up. So you need to have a way to respond to that. I'll give it to you. That allows things to be put back into the right frame, because their frame has been artificially manipulated in their head as a way for them to get out of fixing the problem. And it's also going to continue to prevent them fixing the problem. And as I just said with Zig Ziglar, if you allow that, you can't have what you want in life because you're not serving people. So how do you fix it? They say, yeah, what's the price? At the moment, the price is 0 because I don't know if we have alignment. So I don't have anything to sell you. Now, if you deliver that with the right energy, not egotistically, not with you now thinking that you're the big I am as the salesperson, but if you say it very chill, but very firm, very with conviction, it will land. Now you've fixed the frame. You've fixed the red flag. It's like a broken bone when you go to the hospital and they click a broken bone back into place. If they don't click it back into place, it's going to continue to cause pain. And also, if it stays in that position, it will actually heal in the wrong way. In other words, you'll be deformed. And someone continuing to stay at a poor level of income, if you were selling something that helps with income, is a deformed version of the best version of themselves that they could have been if they'd have fixed the broken bone. Or in this case, if they'd have fixed the red flag, which you're being shown on the sales call, and that red flag is something in the way that they're dealing with their situation. So let's get into the next one. The next one is excessive requests for trials. Can I have a free trial? Can I try it before I buy? Can I have a discount or anything like that? And this is still frame, because what they're essentially trying to say is, I'm not committed, but I want you, salesperson, business, giving the offer, to be committed. In other words, they don't realize, but they do realize, but they're in denial slightly consciously and slightly subconsciously, that they have to go all in with their commitment in order to fix the problem. if they try and think that they're going to fix the problem without that, what is your job? Yes, as a salesperson, your job is to bring them back to reality. The further you are in life as a person, as a salesperson, and the further the prospect is away from reality, this is reality, this is where they've trended, they've gone over here, this gap from where you should be, reality and reality, this gap is precisely the measurement of how much of your full potential, the best life, the best reality, the best version of yourself that you won't realize because you're not facing reality. Your job as a salesperson, using questions, and I want you to imagine the questions are like you're throwing a rope out to sea where someone is in one of those little rings. They're out at sea, they're drowning, they're drifting off to sea, and they're in a life ring. And your questions are like throwing a rope, and as you ask the questions, that's the rope going out to them, and they can grab on the rope and they can pull themselves back to the boat, back to safety, back to dry land. That's essentially what you're doing on a sales call. This person is all the way over here, and you using your questions, your frame, the way you show up, the confidence you have, the certainty, the beliefs that you have, you bring them back into reality. And so this red flag, they're so far out of reality that they think, oh, I can just have you throw me the offer, but I don't have to come to you. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. And you would say, how many months or years, based on the conversation that you've had already, how many years has it been that you've been, wanting to solve blank? Oh, 3 years. Got it. How many attempts have you made to solve that using outside help? 0. Have you had any phone calls with people about outside help? Oh yeah, I've had this many, blah, blah, blah. And did you ask those people for free trials, free help? Yes. What did they say? No. And you diagnose it through discovery questions. You diagnose it to get to the point where you basically say to them, do you think part of the problem in regards to you not getting this solved has been your desire for free trials, or basically to get help without putting in the commitment on your end, whilst wanting 100% commitment to getting you the results on the end of the person providing the service? Do you think that could be part of the problem as to why you haven't got this solved? You can ask that in a number of different ways. What you have to do is use your questions to help them see that this way of showing up, desiring to think that they're better than needing to meet commitment 50-50, we're going to commit to getting you the result, you're going to commit to us with financial investment, skin in the game. If the frame is warped, if it's out of alignment, they aren't going to buy, but they're also never going to fix the problem. They're never going to have success in anything in this area of their life where they have this belief of frame. You have to use questions to bring it back into level alignment. So that's that red flag. The next category of red flags is awareness or perspective. What do they see and how do they see it? So again, prospect is living in reality and the sky is blue, but they're viewing it as a cloudy day, metaphorically. And so the most obvious and the biggest red flag to show you that the prospect is not in reality in terms of their awareness or their perspective is they're on the sales call, but their mind is somewhere else. The lights are on, but nobody is home. Okay, and think about this. If you're talking to somebody and the lights are on, but nobody's home, what do you think is the likelihood that they're really thinking, feeling, associating, connecting with the problem, with their desires, with the problem, basically what they're on the call to solve? What percentage do you think that's actually happening? Basically 0. And so if the person seems distracted and not present, the most important thing that you do to readdress this red flag is you have to check yourself as the salesperson that you don't get triggered. And then, so long as you're in a good state, you address it. You say, I've noticed a number of times now that whilst we're having this conversation, you seem very distracted. What's going on? Now, why? You might be thinking, oh, Josh, this is very basic. It's basic what you do, but do you know why? The reason that someone is distracted is that their awareness is, this isn't that big of a problem. Well, if it is a problem and it is a big problem and it has consequences, you as the salesperson need to bring them back to that awareness. Or they know it's a problem and they are allowing themselves to be distracted to keep their head facing the other direction so they don't look at the problem. As a salesperson, to sell someone, but also to help them fix the problem, first of all, you have to hold up the mirror of the severity of their situation to their face, and you have to get them to look in the mirror. If they're looking around, even if they're looking in the camera and they're looking at you on the sales call, but you have your spider sense that you're like, they're looking at me, but they're thinking about their wife or dinner or, getting a beer or whatever. They're thinking about something else. Your job is to bring their awareness, their mind from out here, lights are on, but nobody's home. They're outside of the home, and bring their consciousness back to here. Bring their awareness back to here. Now, with this red flag, it's really imperative, especially if they're not physically looking around the room, that you're able to spot it. If you're reading from a script, if you're memorizing lines, you are not going to be able to do this. You are not going to be present enough. You're not going to be tuned in enough to notice when the prospect is verbally answering your questions, but their mind is somewhere else. For example, you can be driving, you're not crashing, but you're thinking about something else. You're not thinking, if someone asked you after the drive, did you spot the person at the side of the road that had the yellow jacket on? You'd be like, no, I didn't see that. Because you weren't concentrating on the driving, even though you were doing it, your mind was somewhere else. You need to make sure the prospect's mind is on the problem, on the conversation. So their awareness has to be around what you're talking about. You literally just call it out. But you can't call it out and say, hey, I noticed you're not concentrating. Or, hey, I noticed that you keep looking around. Because it comes across as annoyed. It has to come from a place of curiosity and concern, but also the deep inner belief inside of you knowing that this thing, this red flag, is a part, if not the big and only part, as to why they haven't got what they want, why they haven't solved the problem, why they are continuing to suffer. Okay. And so you saying, hey, I noticed that you 2-3 times now while we're having this conversation, you seem very distracted. If they really realize that you tuned in and you noticed that subconsciously their brain will be thinking two things. Holy shit, this person notices. And they'll also be thinking, holy shit, I can't get away with not telling the truth now, not opening up, keeping my repressed feelings and emotions and reality down, suppressed. They can't do that anymore. They see you as an expert, and they also feel like, you know what? Now's the time that I need to talk about it. And they'll tell you something really deep. They'll tell you like, yeah, Josh, honestly, I do really want to fix this, but I'm just, if I was selling fitness, I'm just really scared. I've been overweight for the last 5-10 years, and I don't know how I'm going to do this. Boom. They weren't concentrating. Their mind was on another planet to allow them relief, to allow them to disassociate with the pain of facing reality. You just sold them in that moment that you were aware of that, and you brought them back and you said, hey, John, metaphorically, while little Johnny keeps trying to run over there to not face reality, you grab little Johnny and you say, no. Sit here. We're going to talk about your problems. We're going to face reality. That's basically what you're doing. And when you do that, just like a child being told that by a parent, they're like, oh shit, okay, well, I need to do this now. Okay, so that's that red flag. The next red flag within the category of awareness and perspective is not that they're not present enough to be associating with the reality. What they've actually started to do to disassociate reality is they keep changing their story. So they might say, oh yeah, if I was selling lead gen, oh yeah, last month the business is doing really well. Okay, cool. So how many sales did you make last month? Oh, 2 last month. Oh, interesting. Okay. What about the month before? Oh yeah, the month before was like really good. We had like 15. Okay, 15. And what about the month before that? Oh, the month before was like 2. And then you ask them about why they said that was good, because it was inconsistent and it was actually very low for 2 months. And then they change the story. They say, oh no, well actually it was actually a good month. We had like 12 sales. And they just keep changing the story. Or if you're selling fitness, they're saying, I want to do this for my partner. And then 5 minutes later, they're saying they want to do it because they have their children and they want to do it for their children. And what's actually happening is, by not being clear and having clarity on what the story is, although it's actually facts and reality, is that is another version of them spreading out from reality. They want to talk about this story and this meaning and this why this is important for this reason and why it's important for that reason. And everything just keeps changing. You need to bring them back to reality and say, John, I need to understand what is actually going on. You've told me a couple of different things, and I'm curious, why have you given me different answers to things? You just address it head on. You address the thing that's causing the person to not be where they want to be. And that thing is they keep changing their story. It's like somebody that is in a relationship that's unhealthy. If you speak to one of the partners that's unhappy with the relationship, they'll tell a different story to different people. And that's because they're not actually facing reality. And if they actually faced reality, what do you think would happen to the problems? They would probably go away or severely be reduced. So this red flag is when you speak to a prospect and you keep seeing that the story keeps changing, you need to address that head on. You can ask some more clarifying questions to see if you can get the data and the numbers to be clear. And then after that, if not, you just address it head on. You say, John, I've asked you a number of times for some clarity on a few things. Every time I'm hearing something different. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Why is that? However you want to phrase that. Again, don't write down Josh's word tracks. They're not word tracks. I want you to focus on being able to spot these red flags and doing what a good master closer would do, who deserves to make a lot of money and is going to make a lot of money, which is to actually address these things, because this is where the sale is made. The sale isn't made when you get to the end of your questions or you get to the end of your pitch or you handle all the objections. The sale is made when you find the thing that's keeping the person where they are instead of where they want to be, and you discuss that. You talk about that, you address it, and you fix it there and then on the call with the prospect. You take them from not reality to in reality, okay? All right, the next category is their character. In other words, them. So we talked about their perspective of things. We're now actually talking about them. This first one is very simple. It's a huge red flag. If they don't have or they don't choose to have authority over the situation. In other words, they've disassociated. You'll hear me say that word more than enough times on this call, because that's what most of these red flags are about, is not connecting to what they need to be connecting with and reality, and that's why they're not where they want to be. And by the way, if you're a salesperson, you're not where you want to be, you might need to have a reality check. That's why that's a common phrase. Do you not have the skills you need? Do you not have the beliefs you need? Do you not have the internal mastery you need? Do you not know how to sell without a script and you need to know that? Why are you not where you want to be? If you need help with any of that or you want help with any of that, there'll be a link below to join the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. So, lack of authority. In other words, they are the cause, the beginning and the end of the cause of their problem, yet they want to try and say they have to, or they need to, or they want to consult with their partner or with a manager in the business, even though they're the business owner, or prey on it, or anything that is removing themselves from authority. Your job on a sales call is to have a frank, real, honest, no bullshit conversation that the only person that has authority over this situation and over their life and over their choices and over the decisions they make is them. And so this will usually come up either in the beginning of the call when they bring another person to the call that actually isn't the decision maker. You know, like if it's a guy coming to the call to change career and he brings his wife. You wouldn't say this, but you're thinking, why do you need your wife here for you to decide to change career? Like it's your job. It's your life. It's your career. Okay. And so anytime that it comes out in a conversation that you can see that they're what's called abdicating or abstaining from responsibility, you need to bring them back to ownership and bring them back to responsibility. How would you do that? Well, depends in what way they're relieving themselves from ownership, but you ask them point blank questions about what they've done and what they've been doing. So let's say I was selling fitness and they're trying to say, oh, you know, I find it really hard to stay in shape because of my partner, my girlfriend, for whatever reason. You say, okay, how many times did you exercise this week? 0. Okay. what did you eat? And you go through what they ate that they shouldn't have been eating. You go through the fact that they didn't eat any good things. You go through the fact they drank a bunch of Coca-Cola, and you say, who is in control of what you put into your body, and who is in control of what you do with your body in regards to activity and exercise? They'll say me, you. And so do you think part of the problem in regards to why you haven't got blank, your health and fitness solved, has been wanting to have either the support and assistance or even the decision to be made of what you should be eating and doing by someone else instead of yourself? Do you think that's been part of the problem? And you ask them questions and you bring them back to reality. So massive red flag. You have to be very careful of this one. Can even come up in the beginning of the call where they even just tell you, hey, I'm on the call, but just so you know, I have a business partner and, I'm not making a decision on the call without the business partner. Say, awesome. Thanks for letting me know. So what we'll do, we'll reschedule for when everyone can be on the call, because they're going to have questions. They're going to have different questions to you. And the person that has the information to answer those questions is me. And I wouldn't want you to mislead, your business partner by giving the wrong information unknowingly as well. So we'll just reschedule to when everyone can be on the call. You just don't allow that abdication or abstaining of responsibility. Sometimes it will be business owners, but actually more often than not, it will be a person putting the blame or putting the responsibility on culture, location. Yeah, often those ones. They'll be blaming anything that you could call as a victim mindset. So they're saying, oh, well, at my age, it's difficult. Okay, well, do you know any people your age that are in great shape, if it was fitness? Or they say, in my country, we can't do that. In my religion or in my culture. And you need to always bring them back to authority, that the only person, the be-all and end-all of their life is them. The next one, about their character. So we've discussed that they don't choose, prior to being on a call with you, to have the authority over their life. This one's an interesting one because it's in a way kind of the opposite. They don't have too much authority, because if they have too much authority, it's actually uneducated or unearned authority over themselves regarding this current situation, or they would already be where they want to be. Let me explain that. So the red flag is not being willing to be challenged, because if they believe that they've got it all figured out, they know how to fix it, why haven't they already fixed it? Okay. And your job, again, as a salesperson, is to help them realize through questions their belief that they don't even believe, but they need someone to challenge them on it, is that they're going to figure it out. They know what to do. It's just time. Just haven't put the effort in. Okay. Well, where was that belief when you booked a call, right? Where was that belief when you booked a call? In other words, if all you needed to do to go from 300 pounds to 220 because you've been overweight was to just put in the effort and you know what to do and how to do it, where was that belief when you booked the call, right? And you're that's a quick way to do it. You're showing them the reality that, like, don't fuck with me. Like, I'm not stupid. And people want that. You might be surprised, but people need that. People need someone to just tell them the truth, which is, prospect, that that's bullshit. I know that that's bullshit. You know now, because I've pointed it out, that I know that that's bullshit. And when the prospect sees that you see through their bullshit, this is massive. When the prospect sees that you see through their bullshit, they finally get faced with the reality that they have to see through their own bullshit. They have been able to see it, but again, it's disassociation. It's like, oh, I can see that this excuse is bullshit, but I'm just going to continue pretending that I don't see. Like covering my eyes, like, oh, I don't see it, la, 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 la. It's like, but then when you like take their hands over their eyes and say, hey, like, are you really telling me this? They're like, oh, shit. They can't deny it anymore. And so that is your job on a sales call. That is your job as a salesperson, is to help them realize that they do need to be challenged enough to the point where they have authority and they have ownership and they have responsibility over their life and their situation, but not too much that they disassociate it in the other direction from too much authority. Like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. I chose to be 300 pounds. I've chosen to be like this. I've chosen to run my business with shit lead flow. This was one when I used to sell dating. I've chosen that I'm at a phase in my life now where women are not that important to me. I wouldn't say it like this. Why the fuck then are we on a sales call to try and sell you dating coaching? Not what you would say on the sales call. But that's the point, though, is that they try and say these things like, I've chosen to be here. I've chosen that this is, something I already know how to figure out when I choose to figure it out. Great. So then why are we on this call? Where was that belief when you booked this call, right? So massive red flag. You got to be able to address the fact that in the character category that they're neither too removed from authority to be making their own choices, but also not so connected to the authority that they're trying to say they've already made the choice to be where they want to be. They need to be willing to be challenged, okay? All right, the next category, there's only one in this category, is the vehicle. This is how are they going to go from where they're at to where they want to be? What is the red flag? They're not bought in on the vehicle. You might be saying, is that not your job? No, your job on a sales call is not to convince someone of the mechanics or the mechanism of what you sell. I'll give you an example. In the past, I've sold training for people who want to learn how to trade cryptocurrency, how to invest in cryptocurrency. If I was on a sales call with someone that says, I don't know if cryptocurrency is a scam or not, my job is not to convince them that cryptocurrency is not a scam. But if they have this lack of being bought in to the vehicle that is going to take them from where they are now to where they want to be, or in other words, they don't make as much money as they want to have more money. One of the ways to do that is cryptocurrency, investing, but they're not bought in to that. That is a red flag. And your job is to address that red flag and say, hey, listen, it doesn't seem like you're at the point where you feel educated enough as to whether cryptocurrency in your mind is an opportunity that you want to take advantage of, or is something that you would actually like to avoid for fear of what we could call risk. And so what I would say at this point is we wouldn't be aligned, but I would invite you, I can even send you over some materials to get more educated on that. And then if and when in the future you feel, if you do, that you've come to the conclusion that this is an opportunity you want to take advantage of, we could have a further discussion at the time. So this is one of those red flags where it's either a smokescreen, I'll talk about that in a minute, or if it's real, I said at the beginning of this video, there are some red flags that you just can't overcome, and neither should you be trying to, because you're going to get either massive amount of objections that you can't handle, because it's not because there's an objection, it's that they actually aren't bought into the vehicle, or some weird way you enroll them into the program, they're going to refund because they don't have the belief set that they need to be successful. I'll give you another example. I'll give you two more examples, actually. When I was selling dating services, we were helping guys get women on dates using dating apps. If a guy came to the call and thought dating apps were a scam and there's no good women on dating apps, my job was not to convince him. My job was to say, okay, so are you telling me that you don't believe any guy has ever got a date with a woman that was high quality from a dating app? He may say, yes, that's exactly what I believe. I don't think it's possible. Great. Thank you for letting me know. Anybody that we would consider bringing into this program, they believe that dating apps are a way to meet, attract, and date high quality women that they don't know how to exploit, that they would like to exploit. And I'm not hearing that from you. In fact, I'm hearing the exact opposite. And so I would say we don't have alignment. And you unsell them. You'll be surprised, by the way, when you do that, how many people then come back and say, well, maybe it's just I don't know how to do the dating apps. Oh, well, looky here. So that was the red flag. That was one example how to handle it. Another example would be fitness. If somebody is not bought into the idea of counting their calories, and that's something that they're going to need to do in the program, I think this whole counting calorie thing, I think, it's just a scam. And I think it's really just created by the food companies to sell us health foods that have the calories printed on the packet. Okay. And so how are you going to get to your ideal body weight without knowing the nutrition of what you're putting into your body? You just put it back onto them with a question. Ultimately, with this one, If it's a smokescreen, in other words, when you actually ask them questions about it, they admit and they accept that they were just trying to hide from the truth, the same thing I keep talking about, then you can sell them because you've now fixed the red flag. You've fixed the fact that they were trying to deny reality, even though they were conscious that they were trying to deny the reality that, hey, I'm going to need to count my calories if I want to not be 300 pounds, or hey, I'm going to need to use these dating apps if I want to meet women, unless, I want to meet women on the street in bars and clubs or whatever. And so by handling the red flag, you can now sell them. But more importantly, they're going to be successful. Or if it was just absolutely true, this is one of the ones where you just say, hey, we don't have alignment because of blank, blank, blank. Anyone that we would bring into the program believes blank, blank, blank. And then you get off the call. You don't waste any more time. Okay. Final category of red flags. So the final category of red flags is around the journey. In other words, we know where they are. We know where they're going to be. We know that the frame's right. We know that they're right. Everything that we've already covered. We know the vehicle that we're going to use to get there. But how committed are they to using the vehicle, to going on that journey? So the first red flag is if they are indifferent to the results. In other words, they've told you the goal, which, as we discussed before, has to be big enough that they're actually going to see it as motivating. But now when we're talking about, how important is this for you to do blank, or how much longer do you want to keep putting off blank, or any type of commitment-based discussion, they're like, oh, yeah, it's kind of important. Or, you wouldn't say it like this, but, do you want to do this? Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Kind of, maybe, possibly, sort of, a little bit. Any of those minimizing words or phrases, if they have indifference to the result, even with the perfect vehicle, understanding that they have a real pain and a real problem, having a big enough goal that's a long-term goal, having the right frame control, if they're indifferent to the commitment that they need to have along the journey, they're not going to buy. And so whenever, this usually comes up in the temperature check, whenever you find indifference, there is an objection, which is always some issue with the person, how they're showing up, fears, insecurities, whatever, that you haven't handled. So if you ask them in the temperature check, so based on what we've gone through, do you feel like this can get you where you want to go? And they say, yes. And you say, okay, cool. So where do you want to go from here? And they say, well, I guess we can talk about next steps. I guess? That doesn't sound very committed. And you've already told them the pitch at this point to getting the results. If they're indifferent, big red flag. And there's an issue that you haven't exposed. So I'd say, I noticed you don't seem that excited or even that interested, if I'm being honest with you. Oh, yeah, no, I am. I appreciate that you're telling me with your words that you are, but my spidey sense is telling me something different. And if I have any concerns that, we've got alignment or you're going to be successful in this program, I would not be authorized to bring you into this program. So, if you're willing to share it, what is really going on? Perhaps something that we haven't discussed that you think I might need to know, and you back off. You remove the sale off the table because they're indifferent to the results. And if they're indifferent to the results, they weren't going to give you money. And they weren't going to put in the time, effort, commitment, blood, sweat, tears in the program. Because remember, your job as a salesperson is to sell someone into the program. But you should also, if you're an ethical closer, have a moral regulator that is, I'm not just going to sell someone into the program. I'm going to sell someone the mindset, the beliefs, the commitment that they need to be successful once they're in the program. And if they're indifferent to the result, that's not going to happen. So you back off, you pull the offer off the table, and from an ethical, moral high ground, moral compass, you say, I wouldn't bring you into this program if there's anything that I'm sensing that we haven't covered. Now, again, you have to be very tuned in because sometimes prospect will be like, well, I've just told you there's nothing going on. If you're tuned in enough, you will believe your reading of the situation. Like I just did a demonstration. I appreciate, I respect that you tell me there's nothing. I'm going to trust my intuition. If you want to talk about it, that would be awesome. If you don't want to talk about it, that would also be perfectly fine too. But I wouldn't bring you into this program if I feel like there's anything that could potentially prevent you, stop you from being successful. And it should always be about and framed as them being successful. Okay? So that red flag, huge, usually comes up towards the end of the call. The final red flag, still within the commitment or the journey category, is overly skeptical or untrusting. Now, someone could have the most beautiful journey laid out ahead of them to get from where they are to where they want to go. But there's something about them that when they look at that journey, they are overly skeptical. They are overly untrusting. I'll ask you a question. What do you think is the likelihood that they make that journey, they complete that journey, they survive that journey, if they are overly skeptical and untrusting? Correct. It's basically zero. I would not bet $1 that they're going to make it through the journey. And as I've been saying, and hopefully I've invited you to the idea that very high level sales is very well connected to moral authority, moral high ground. You shouldn't bring someone into a program that isn't going to sustain to get the result, that isn't going to get through to the other side. And so if someone is overly skeptical or untrusting, maybe about you, the salesperson, maybe about the company, maybe about the vehicle, maybe about themselves and life and the world and reality or where they live or whatever, you have to tackle that. And it could come up as something like, if I was selling dating apps, I really love the pitch. I love you. I've had a great conversation with you, Josh. But I think in the 21st century, I just think all women are not looking for something serious. Okay, interesting. So now they're overly skeptical. They're overly untrusting of something. Okay, we would talk about it. Okay, why do you say that? Okay, what happened that you are referencing that conclusion from? You talk about it. And you ask them questions. And simply by asking them questions, you're going to get to a point where you've either concluded and they've now realized that their untrustworthiness or their skepticism was not grounded in reality. It was actually a fear, an irrational fear about something that they can use to put off making a change, or maybe a irrational fear. I'll use the dating example because I sold it. They could be saying they feel that all women are currently just looking for something casual, nothing serious, because actually the idea for them of going on a date and getting rejected, which they may have had in the past, is so scary for them that they're now creating some universal belief that is manifesting as untrustworthiness or skepticism. And you would talk about it. I could say something like, well, do you want to continue to not go on any dates with anybody because of that belief? No. Okay. What do you think you need to do to get to a point where even if you have been rejected a number of times by women that maybe do just want something casual, you are the best version of yourself in regards to dating, that when the right person does come along, that does want something serious, you will be there, you will be ready, you will be prepared, and you will be in the position to make that happen. What do you need to do? And you take them through questions to help them realign their beliefs, to realign their skepticism, to realign their untrustworthiness, simply by having a conversation. But the red flag is simply that if they've got too much skepticism, they've got too much untrustworthiness, they're not going to buy, they're not going to be successful, and they're never going to fix the problem that they have. So you address that untrustworthiness, you address that skepticism head on. What are you skeptical about? Why are you skeptical about it? Where does that come from? Are you willing to allow this skepticism to continue to rob you of the future that you want? How much longer are you willing to allow it to rob you of the future you want, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? You just ask questions around it to get them to a point where they either decide, I'm done with this over untrustworthiness and over exaggerated skepticism, or I'm going to continue to have that now knowing, because the ethical salesperson showed me and told me, knowing perfectly well that that is me choosing to be perfectly fine with continuing in my current reality. When you help them realize that that skepticism, that untrustworthiness is what's keeping them in their current reality, and you invite them to make a choice. Do you want to stay in this current reality with this untrustworthiness and skepticism, or do you want to let go of the untrustworthiness and the skepticism and get to this reality? And when you help, so long as you've helped them realize that the untrustworthiness and the skepticism is what's keeping them from bridging the gap, because they need to go on the journey. They're never going to start the journey or complete the journey. If they have too much untrustworthiness or skepticism, when you help them realize that, they're able to make a choice. It's still a choice. They could still say, I don't want to do it. Fine. But at least they're making a choice based on seeing reality. To finish, I've said it on every one. I'll say it again. The red flag is bringing the person from not reality, not something that's going to serve them, not something that's going to help them fix the problem, and bringing them back, throwing out your lifeline and pulling them in while they're drifting out at sea in their little life ring on their own, suffering and struggling, and bringing them back into reality. So just like this one, the distance from reality was created by skepticism and lack of trusting anything and believing everything's a scam and all of this that I'm sure you've heard on a sales call. When you hear that stuff as a red flag, you have to address it. So that is the red flags. Remember, these kill deals. You have to be aware of these red flags. You have to know how to address them. If that is something that you want further help with, this was just a slither of what we would be able to do to handle these red flags, and also a deeper understanding, because usually I show these red flags with a real sales call. Okay, boom. You hear that? That's this. And he's saying that for this reason. And this is how you fix it in real time. We do that by reviewing real sales calls inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. I do it. My mentor does it, the guy that's responsible for teaching me everything I know about sales, making $100,000 a month in commission, training Alex Hormozi's gym launch sales team. He reviews calls, I review calls, and we go much, much, much deeper on these red flags that kill deals. If that's something that you're interested in, there'll be a link below this video. I might see you on the inside. I'll talk to you soon.